All right. Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to the Ecosystem Restoration Deep Dive webinar. We took off last month for my honeymoon in Spain, where I saw you, Dietmar, and that was great.
Hi everyone in Spain.
So today we got a treat. We're going to dive deep into the history of the Altiplano with Dr. Dietmar Roth. He's a historian. He's also the mayor of Vélez Blanco. He's also on the advisory council for the Ecosystem Restoration Camps Foundation. He's also on the board for AlVelAl and lots of things. What did I miss there, Dietmar?
Yeah. No, it's fine. Yeah, and the president of the natural park here. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
and working
okay.
national parks together and all kinds of great things. Yeah. And the TUI, and you're involved with the TUI. We'll get into all these things. Yeah.
Yeah, well, let's try to. I hope you will enjoy the journey we will make now.
Oh,
The southeast of Spain. 1,400,000 years of history and stuff. And more stuff. Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to start with this one. And then I'm going to take off my screen, I think. Disable my video.
You share.
Share. There we go. I'll share that. And I'm going to disable my video.
Okay.
Disable my video, I think.
Fantastic. Oops.
All right. Well, go ahead, Dietmar. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's start with the first diagram.
With the first page here.
Yeah, the next one.
The next one.
And go ahead to the third one. Go to the third one, if you please. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. That's okay. Yeah, Paleolithic. Okay. Hi to everyone again. We will have a little journey around about 1,400,000 years, because it's a very interesting part. We are living here in the southeast of Spain, between Valencia and Granada, if you know a little bit of Spain. In the southeastern part, we are nearer to the coast of Algeria than to Madrid. So you see we're on a strategic geographical point, and also on a hotspot of climate change effects and other challenges. But what we will start is to give you a little overview about our history here in this part. And it's quite interesting because the first human being in Europe was found here nearby in the heart of the AlVelAl territory, the provinces of Murcia, Granada, and Almeria. Yeah, go a little bit more to the right. Yeah, with a little blue quadrato. Huh? It's a little village called Arcos. It's 2,000 inhabitants. And then, 1982, a researcher from Catalonia found a piece of a skull you see on the photograph below this map. And this is a piece of a skull of a human being, 3 years old, round about. And later on, there was found some pieces like teeth and stuff like that. And 2 years ago, there was made a C14 an analysis of these pieces. And we have now the data that it's more than 1.4 million years old. And also some pebble tools and stuff like that nearby. In those times, 1 million years, more than 1 million years ago, there was a huge lake, here in this part of Spain. Later on, it's it was converted in the Guadalquivir River, going down to the Atlantic Sea. You see the Guadalquivir crossing all Andalusia from the northeast to the southwest, going in next to Cadiz in the Atlantic Sea. Well, this huge lake was a meeting point for animals, of course, and people hunting or searching also for rests of animals. You know that some of us in ancient times were more, well, of course, hunters and gatherers, but also gathering rests of animals brought to death by lions or tigers or stuff like that.
Dietmar,
okay, and that's, yeah, please.
Quick question for you. How far, that cave where they found this 1.4 million year old skull, how far is that from the first ecosystem restoration camp there in the Altiplano?
Direct distance is around about 15 kilometers.
Wow, so it's right there.
That's right, yeah. And if you will spend much more money here in the region, like they're doing in the northern part of Spain, there was finding in Atapuerca quite a lot of human beings, but around about 1 million years ago and 800,000 years ago, called the Homo antecessor. If you spend the same money here, I'm sure we will find quite a lot of more human rests here in the territory. Huh?
Right.
You have to think about, in those times, it's a very different geographic situation, and people could pass in those days directly from Africa to the now independent Iberian Peninsula. People coming here, it says Homo erectus. It's coming from Ethiopia and those regions, coming here by these nowadays the Gibraltar stretchment. Okay, if you want to, we can do quite a lot. Well, we go in a while because we have quite a lot of stuff to tell you. The next, stay there, please. 1 moment, please. Stay on this. The important thing now is to have in mind we have different ice ages, we have different climate changes all over these years, from 1 million years ago to 5,000 before Christ. The last one was a Würm ice age, some 20,000 to 10,000 years ago, before Christ. In those times we have evidence of people coming from the coast side, from the Mediterranean Sea, to hunt in our region. You have to think about, in those times there was 10 degrees less in the environment here. The coast was also 100 meters below the actual sea level, and people came here in late spring until beginning of autumn to hunt in this region and go back in winter to stay in the winter time on the coast side. We have evidence of that because we found quite a lot of bones and pollen. It was analyzed by paleobotanics and paleozoologists in the recent 30 years, especially from one important cave here in the region of AlVelAl called Cueva Ambrosio. Cueva Ambrosio, it's next, well, some 20 kilometers, not even 20, it's also around about 15 kilometers on the west of the eco-restoration camp. It's one of the 4 only existing caves in Europe, 3 in Spain and 1 in France, where the cave paintings, we find cave paintings there from Altmühltal, it's 25,000 years before our era. It was covered with debris and artifacts and stuff like that coming from those times. And so we have quite a lot of luck to make the datation of this painting. Yeah, we have here the famous horse found in 1994 by Sergio Ripoll. He is a professor from the University of Madrid. He was in charge of the excavations in those times. And you see a horse painted in red. You normally have to think about, when you are speaking about rock art, Paleolithic or rock art and Neolithic rock art, of red paintings, and 93%. 5% of black paintings, and the 2% of roundabout white paintings. The red paintings was made with iron oxide, the black paintings with manganesian oxide. Okay, so you find here a horse, because I told you before that in those times there was 10 degrees less in the environment. It was a steppe era like we have now nowadays, more or less, with quite a few trees and an open, wide open landscape. And of course, horses was running around there. It was also an object for hunting for the first hunters and gatherers coming here up from the coast side. It's quite interesting because we are lacking we have a lack of 3 meters to the ground soil in this cave in Cueva Ambrosio to have to be excavated. And we can think about, we will find more cave paintings, maybe 30,000 years ago. It's quite interesting. And if you are a little bit interested in prehistory and archaeology, you find quite a lot of discussions in the last 20 years about the origins of Homo sapiens, of our species, relationship with Homo neanderthalensis. You know, it's from a 2 to 4% of our genetics are from the Homo neanderthalensis. They crossed and lived together in the Balkans, but where most time they lived together was here in the Iberian Peninsula, especially in Gibraltar and surroundings, nowadays Andalusia. It's quite interesting. They're living together for around about 20 or 15,000 years. And this summer, in 3 caves in Spain was discovered rock art evidence from 65,000 years ago. That's 25,000 years more than we was known until now, and that's quite amazing. It means that Neanderthal was really making rock art before Homo sapiens, but there are only few evidences. So the most part of the first art of mankind was made by Homo sapiens. So from around about 40,000 years ago, if you can see cave paintings in La Chauvet or in France, in Lascaux, or in Spain in Altamira, no? From 40,000 to 30,000 years ago, that's Paleolithic rock art in the Ice Ages. And later on, we are now to the Neolithic times. Any questions? Please interrupt me if you have any questions or anything, or I'm boring. Please interrupt me.
Do you want to do it as we go like that, or do you want to save them for the end, or either way? Because we do have a question and answer box where if you want to write your question, we can get to it later. In fact, we encourage that, okay. Right? And then if you want, you can share. You can answer questions as we go. Which one do you prefer?
Oh, for me, it doesn't matter what you prefer, the audience.
Okay. We'll put the questions in the question and answer, and then we'll get to them. We can jump in whenever we want to, but collect them there as you think of them, because you might not remember the questions you had a few million years ago. Okay, let's. Neolithic.
Yeah, we will jump now 1,400,000 years, and we come to the very important step forward in the human history. That's Neolithic time. It starts here in Spain, around about 5,000 before Christ. You know, it started in the area of Israel, Lebanon, and other parts of the Near East around 10,000 to 30,000 years ago. What's important? Society changed from hunters and gatherers to the first farmers and cattle breeders with stable settlements, where the cattle breeding was based mainly here on sheep and goats. Later on in other parts of the world with cows and pigs and stuff like that. Later on you have also the cultivation of cereals, primitive wheat like spelter or emmer or stuff like that, and also rye, and like peas. Also, we find the first pottery, using pottery to store things and cook meals also. The first cooking, the use of fire for cooking, and you find it on the first pottery we find in abundance in all settlements and all ecological sites. And we have also rock art. But this rock art now is different. It's more small-sized, more symbolic. In the 19th century, people were thinking it may be like a type of writings, like the hieroglyphs from Egypt. Yeah, please, we go to the Curva de los Letreros. Yeah, it's the principal, panel principal, please. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, thank you. You see it? Well, there are different interpretations on this type of rock art. Obviously, we can't ask anyone who painted that. Even we don't know who painted that. Although it was people from these first down-settled societies, but it was men or women. We don't know. Nowadays there are studies from Indonesia and other parts of the world thinking about that 60% of the rock art was made by women. Well, maybe or not. We can't tell anything sure about that. Not even about what the sense of rock art. It goes broadly wide from art pour l'art, the art for arts, like a very contemporary point of view of art making, going to that's like a landmark to say to others, well, that's our territory. Now we are living here, we are settling here. Also for transhumans, for transhumans, cattle breeding, or the most accepted point of view on this rock art is it was a site for ceremonies and rituals related to fertility and hunting. But we have also interpretations from the late 1980s about more sociology of the representation of the different groups of society of those times, because we're now society is changing. They're not all equal. Some people ruling, others have to obey, and in the new gender relationships for more equal society between men and women, or maybe also a women-ruled society to a male-driven society. Okay, that's a Neolithic. It's very, very important. It's really the first big revolution in human economic and social history. Please go on, Tim. Yeah. Okay. Okay, and the next important step in human history is when they begin to work on using metals, especially, first of all, copper. And here in the southeast of Spain, and obviously in all the AlVelAl territory, was quite a lot of ecological sites where we find people from the Los Millares culture. Los Millares, it's a really impressive archaeological site in the south of the province of Almeria. It's between the 3rd and the 2nd millennium before Christ. And you find people using copper, mostly for objects of prestige, not really for use, like axes and stuff like that. It's in the nowadays the provinces of Almeria, Granada, Murcia, and part of Alicante, with 45 little cities or villages. To see the importance of Los Millares, you see a village surrounded by 3 city walls, crowded with round houses where the people lived, and with a cemetery outside the city walls. As I told you before, we now see there's beginning to where the structure of society with the hierarchies going on, economy based especially on cattle breeding and cereals, but also with artisans working in a specialized society. It's the start of the specialized society with copper and stone tools, and also using, and that's an impact on the environment, and it may also interesting for ecosystem restoration camp, big amounts, well, starting with quite a lot, important amounts of wood for melting the copper and using the metal. Please go on, Tim, if you want to. If you want to change the... We're coming now to the next important culture for our region. If you see on this, on the map, on the right hand, you see the southeast of Spain and the word written El Argar. El Argar, it's also a very important culture here, related to the Bronze Age, no? When they melted with plumbum and to become timber, excuse me, and they become bronze. It's also the name comes from a little village here, also from the AlVelAl territory. It's called El Argan, near to Antas in Almeria. It's a little village with 500 inhabitants in those times, and a little more of a hectare and a half of surface. Was based on agriculture, cattle breeding, metallurgy, and textiles, of course. And in our heart region of AlVelAl, and next to the eco-restoration camps, some 20 kilometers far away, we find a little village, very fine village, excavated in the 1990s of Castellón Alto. It is also important because in the last day of this excavation, a friend of mine was an ecologist there. He found the first European mummy, really a mummy dressed with his clothes on, with his hair. Also, we know what he is the last dishes, well, the last food he took in those times. You see, it's quite important. We are in the heartland of this culture of El Argar. Please go on. Now we are coming to the next very interesting period. The southeast of Spain ever have been a crossroad of cultures, and now in the first millennium before Christ, we will have evidence. There have been since the 1900, the beginning of the 20th century, the discussion. These different cultures, well, or they are in development of autochthonous people going to another level of culture, having a different type of culture, of religion and stuff like that, or they're coming from Africa like invaders. We don't know. In the last month, there was published a study that in the 5th millennium before Christ, it's really, all the male population of Spain was how you call it? Was murdered, was slaughtered, or stuff like that. They will go on the women, but the male population was slaughtered, maybe by invaders coming from the center of Europe and from the Balkans. It's very new. It was published some 2 months ago. Let's see what will be. It will be more verified in the next studies. Nevertheless, we have now the Iberian culture. That's the southern part of Spain. In the northern part of Spain, you will have Celtic people coming from France and with connections with British Islands. Well, in our parts lived the Iberians, especially the tribes, the confederation of tribes of the Bastetanos. But we have also contact on the coast side with Phoenicians coming from Lebanon, later on from Carthago in Tunisia. You may know Hannibal. Hannibal fighting against the Romans. No? He was from Carthago Nova, you see on the coast side, nowadays called Cartagena. His family is from there, those Parkites. And a little bit on the south of Carthago, you find Bavaria. It was a Phoenician settlement used during 1,500 years, later on by the Romans and also by other people coming here. Iberian society is more hierarchized than the El Argar or Los Miares culture. There were a lot of warriors with female priests. Maybe you remember the famous Dama de Elche with this impressive hairdressing, and quite good artisans working especially on metals. Agricultural products now became a wider range, not only in cereals, but the contact with the Phoenicians and also with Greek settlements on the coast side. The most important one is in Catalonia, Emporion, but on other sides also. Is the wine making and olive oil producing in those times. Very important, it's for all our landscape, and obviously also for ecosystem restoration camp. All we are doing now from AlVelAl is esparto grass. This very strong grass. Before plastic became popular here in the 1950s and 60s, it was a universal material to do anything, or all the stuff you need for the animals, for your household, for everything. It's Plinius the Elder wrote a famous book, no, the Historia Naturalis, and there he mentions that all the hinterland from Carthago Nova going up to the hills here to AlVelAl, it's called Campus Spartarius, the land of the esparto grass. To tell you, to give an advance of esparto grass use, it was also exported in the 19th century massively to the United Kingdom for using it for paper making, also for the notes and other stuff. Nowadays it's used, they use it, also the cellulose made of esparto grass for smartphone screens and also for pieces of cars. And the Iberians, we go go back to the Iberians. The Iberians have the first written alphabet in history here on the Iberian Peninsula. Maybe by the influence of the Greek and the Phoenicians, we don't know it. But it's the first evidence of a written language here in Spain. It's not really deciphered now. Well, it's part of them, but we have more doubts than certains. Okay, please come. Yeah, we have two very beautiful founds here. On the right, you find the Dama de Galera. It was found next to Castellón Alto, around from 7th or 6th century before Christ. It comes from nowadays Lebanon, where the Phoenicians were strong. It's a heartland of the Phoenicians, and was used later on in cemetery in Galera. And in the 21st of each March, the sunlight came in this cave. Well, it's a cave, well, it's a tomb, where this goddess, it's a goddess, maybe Astarte, the very important of the Phoenicians, and the shinings on her face. And you see on her breasts, there are two holes, and maybe there was pouring out milk in some situations, ceremonies. It was found in the 1980s, I think. And then on the left, you find the Dama de Baza. It's more recent, 200 years later, to the 4th century before Christ. You see, it's really beautiful. It's a human size. It's like a normal woman nowadays from the size. It's sitting on a throne, and also there was using it for bringing sacrifice. It was discovered in 1972 in Baza. That's around about 80 kilometers more to the west towards Granada in the AlVelAl territory. Okay, let's go on. Yeah. Now we have a very important period. That's the Roman Empire, starting with the Roman Republic in the 3rd century before Christ. Were conquering the Phoenicians or the Carthaginenses. The first eastern part of Spain, where all the important gold and silver and other mines, mining is here very important, in all the ancient and recent times, was situated. And later on, the Romans conquering whole Spain. What's important for us here in the southeast, especially the dry farming they use on large scale. Now they use cereals, olive oil, wine, and also producing, like the Phoenician did before, garum. That's the spice made from fish breasts. You fermented this as really smelling awful, but it was very popular in those times for the dishes, and it was exported like the wine and olive oil mostly to Rome, from Carthago, Cartagena, going to Ostia, that was a harbor of Rome, and later on to Rome. You have to think about Rome, a Roman population with 1 million persons living in Rome. And if you go to Rome and you see the Monte Testaccio in Rome, it's really a hill made by the rest of amphors where all this wine, olive oil, and garum was brought to Rome over the centuries. Roman agriculture is also very important because it's technical innovation, especially the plow they use, and it was used until the 19th century here in Spain. Always you see a little image below the map of a harvesting machine. This relief was found next to Trier in Germany. We have also scientific publications on agriculture. One of the most famous writer on agriculture here in Spain was Colomela. He was also from Andalusia, on the western part of Andalusia. These are very interesting treatises on how you have to select your farm, the site you will have your farmhouse, which crops will you have, and also how to make really personal management on the farms. And well, as I told you before, the export to Rome, that's very important here in all this the region of AlVelAl territory, and in other parts on the Mediterranean coast side, the big villages, the big farms, producing really for exporting these products in Rome and other parts of the Roman Empire. We have quite a lot of them here in AlVelAl territory also. In fact, La Conquera, where the eco-restoration camp is, the property of Alfonso Chico of Guzman, it was an old Roman farm, an old villa. You can find nowadays pottery, coins, and other stuff there bring this evidence. But there's nearly no ecological excavation made here in all this territory. We are lacking of money here in Spain to do that. It's a pity because we have very beautiful farms. Here next to my house, some 3 kilometers from here, we found a very big villa used during more or less 1,000 years, starting with the Roman and ending when the Arabs came here in the 8th century. Okay, let's go on, please. Yeah, and what you can find, it's really surprising. You see that with no big excavations made here, maybe any foreign university will do that, hopefully. You see the Roman theater of Guadix. It's also in the western part of the AlVelAl territory, some 100 kilometers here from where we are in the eco-restoration camp. And the theater was discovered in 2004. It's really impressive because there was space for more than 7,000 people. In Guadix, you see the cathedral of Guadix in the background. Guadix was really the first Christian bishop mentioned in the Christian history of Spain in the 3rd century. You see, it's a very important point also from a religious point of view. Please go on. Yeah, from the 5th century after Christ, with the decay of the Roman Empire, and before the Arab invasion from 711, we have here the invasions of German tribes, German confederation of tribes like the Visigoths or Vandals, the Suevos and other ones. You find these different tribes or confederations on the map. Here in our part, here in the southeast, first there came the Vandals. They're very famous for bad behaviors, no? And later they went away to settling down in Tunisia, North Africa. In this part of Spain was very interesting to control this minings, the mines, silver and gold mines and other stuff, and all this raw materials for the Byzantines, the Byzantine Empire, no? The East Roman part of the ancient Roman Empire. And they ruled here from the 6th century with Justinian I until the invasions of the Arabs. Every time struggling against the Visigoths, and the Visigoths was really few people. From more than 2 million inhabitants Spain had in those times, there are only 100,000 Visigoths living here, like the ruling class with their own kings. Visigoths was really they were Christians, but Iranian Christians, became Catholic in the 7th century, and there was a big struggle between different tribes here. It gave well, some of these tribes was searching for allies to help them to struggle against the others, and that's the reason why they called the expanding Islamic troops into the northern part, northwestern part of Africa, no, Morocco and Algeria. This German confederation was really working quite a lot with cattle, less agriculture, more cattle, especially in the northern part of Spain. In the south, there's remaining this class I told you before of Hispano Romans. Well, let's leave it here because now it's very important to speak about the next period. More important than the German invasions. Please go on. Yeah. Now we come to a very, very, very important time, very important period for the Spanish history, and also for what has to do with the primary sector, especially the agriculture. As we told you before, Roman times is dry farming mostly, wine, cereals, stuff like that. The Muslim invasion coming here in 711, later on 740, and later on 755, will now change agriculture in quite a lot of aspects. First, I have to think there's no one Arab invasion. No. They're Arab coming from the Arabic Peninsula, where Medina and how's the other one? Mecca is situated nowadays, Arabia Saudita. They're coming also people from Syria. There come also people from North Africa, people like the Berber tribes, and that's very important. The Arabs coming from the Arabian Peninsula will settle down in big cities like Cordoba. It was a big city in Roman times. You know Seneca. Seneca was coming from, this philosopher, it was from Cordoba. Or they go to Toledo, the capital of Visigoth, Spain. Or they will found new big cities like Murcia on the southeast. It's a city. It's very near to AlVelAl and the ecosystem regeneration camp. We are really in the heart between Murcia, Cordoba, and later on Granada. It's the last Muslim kingdom. We will speak later on. What's important for agriculture and land use? The introduction of irrigation system and laws. They're coming as far as from Yemen. Nowadays, it's sadly known on the bad war going on there. And the oldest courts of justice in Europe are the water trials at Valencia and Murcia. Really, they're more than 1,000 years old. As you know, the first European Parliament is the Folketing at Iceland, is the first courts of justice are here in Spain, in Valencia mostly. It's going on until today. Every Thursday they meet. With new technologies, the canals, it's like a tunnel system, a subsoil tunnel system to bring water out and to put it in use for irrigation. Or the water wheels, like the noria, called in Spanish. It's an Arab word, really. And the introduction of new crops, like rice, eggplants, palm trees, sugar, cotton, orange, lemon, and quite a lot of stuff. And planted in this irrigated and very fertile little valleys, like we have quite a lot here in AlVelAl territory. That permits you with our climatology, our climate, to have 2 or 3 harvests a year. It's a quite interesting, multifunctional and mosaic land use. And we have also, and this advance and this technology we receive from Arab, from the Muslim culture. You find it nowadays in 4,000 words remaining from Arab origin in the Spanish language, especially in agriculture and in crafts. You see the big innovation that will taking place. And you have also important writers on agriculture like Ibn al-Awam from the 13th century, but we have quite a lot, around about 40. But also in medicine or in philosophy or other stuff. Maybe you remember, I've heard about the translation school at Toledo, where Christians, Jews, and Arabs working together to translate important works from the past, from Greek and Roman past, but also obviously from the Arab civilization, to Latin and Spanish and French. So we have here a knowledge transfer, a very important knowledge transfer in those centuries, with better times and not so good times. Firstly, they conquered, the Arabs conquered whole Spain and go into France. Later on, the Christian kingdom of the north of Spain tried to reconquer the peninsula. It's a war going on hundreds of years. And in the first 400 centuries of Islamic presence here, we have huge, fantastic cultural development. If you think about Cordoba, Cordoba had around about 600 baths, public baths, and 300 libraries. and people like Syria introducing the fantastic Arab music, and also innovating like stuff like the chewing gum to have a better smell, no, and for the other. It's right, very sophisticated culture here, some remains, especially in gastronomy. You will find here also in nowadays in AlVelAl territory. Please go on. And of course, if you think about eco-restoration camps and AlVelAl territory, we have to speak about the last Islamic kingdom in whole Europe. It remained until 1492. And that may be familiar to you, this date, 1492, of course, because on the 12th of October, Christopher Columbus, reached the Americas. Well, he was thinking he reached China, but okay, that's another stuff. It's very important. You see the comments, Tim, about full screen? Okay. Well, really, there's a legend, not about the Queen of Spain, Isabella Católica, giving her necklace to Christopher Columbus, saying, "Oh, okay, with the 3 ships you go and discover the way to China." That's really rubbish. It's rubbish because on the 1st of January of 1492, Granada was conquered by the Catholic kings, and on the 31st of March, the Jews was expelled from Spain, and quite a lot of their properties was given to the Spanish kings, was occupied by the Spanish kings, and they financed part of this voyage of Columbus with this goods really from Muslims and Jews, no, not from the Spanish queen, of course. Okay, it's important, this Kingdom of Granada, because our land use here, our actual land use, is very related to the minifundismo, little land plots, and we are living here in a mountainous landscape. Spain is the second most important country in Europe after Switzerland, with mountains, covered with mountains, especially our part here of the AlVelAl territory. And first, I told you before that the Arabs from the Arabian Peninsula was living in the big city, but in the interior sides, very similar to what you can find in Northern Africa, there was settling down the Berber confederations. And Berber tribes was living here in the region, and with very hard conditions and using little land plots, giving them a big productivity. Also with cattle breeding, of course, with goats and sheep. Maintaining this sophisticated irrigation system, using also the silk production, and with quite a lot of commercial relationships, of course, with Morocco, the different kingdoms of Morocco, and Algeria, and Tunisia, and also with the Ottoman Empire later on. Okay, go on, please. If you want to. Well, now we have a big change, of course. Now, after the conquest of the Kingdom of Granada, you see 2 dates on the top. 1243, it's when the Kingdom of Murcia was conquered by the Spanish kings. That's earlier. Then our territory, AlVelAl territory, is borderline with strong struggles, wars, razzias, and stuff like that. And in 1492, the Kingdom of Granada was conquered. And now we have the feudal system we have in the rest of Europe, bringing in the divided society with the church, with the bishops, priests, religious orders, especially the Franciscans here in the region. A church that the Islamic religion don't know. There's no institution like in the church. You know, the church until the 19th century was a state inside the state with its own laws, its own economy, its own taxes, and with own territories. No? Maybe you remember that in a church, if you was fleeing from laical justice, you can retire in a church and have asylum there. That's the first layer of the society. Later on, we have the nobleman. Church and nobleman, of course, was exceeded from paying taxes and was quite a lot of privileges, and the rest of the societies. Noble families that helped the Spanish kings to conquer this part of Spain was compensated with land plots, sometimes very big land plots here especially in Western Andalusia, but also here in the southeast. And there are also the administrators of justice and, of course, tax collecting. And they forces citizens to pay for nearly everything. They are controlling all the natural resources. And if you want to break bread, you have to go to the oven of the Marquis of Los Vélez. You have to bake your bread there, and you have to pay for it. You can't go hunting like in Arab times freely on the landscape. You have to ask for permission, and some types of animals are forbidden for you to hunt. Or if you want to have some extra land plots, this Mercedes de Tierras, for cutting off trees and to extend your dry farming and to have more land, you have to ask the nobleman, the Marquis of the Duke or whoever, and you have to pay the rest of your life a special tax for him for using this land. That's not your land. It's a usufructus. You have only the right to use it, but not to own it. He is also the owner of flowing and standing waters. So he is also controls a very important resource of water and the hunting, as I told you before. But there are also other very important institutions here in Spain controlling other stuff, like the cattle breeding, especially the sheep. Sheep wool from Spain was fundamental for nowadays Belgium and Holland, and those times Flanders, or going up to Genoa and other parts of Italy. The wool was produced here with huge kettles, going up in the summertime to the north of Spain, coming down in wintertime to the south to have grazing here. We are talking about millions of sheep, and the wool brought out and bring quite a lot of wealth to Spanish merchants and also to the noblemen. And here in the AlVelAl territory, it's very important because there was a big wool washing settlement in Huesca, some 10 kilometers from ecosystem restoration camp, bringing the wool to Cartagena and later on to Genoa in Italy. And it was ruled by Italian merchants mainly. But there are also some families remaining from these Italians living here in the 15th, 16th century. And it's quite interesting. Okay, and the environmental impacts are very strong, especially charcoal making, these cattle breeding, this massive cattle breeding, overgrazing, and the cutting off of the trees to have more land plots to extend the dry farming I told you before. Okay, let's go on. I have here 3 photos from 3 villages in the AlVelAl territory, between 30 and 80 kilometers from ecosystem restoration camp. On the left hand, you find the photo of Vélez Blanco with its castle, of the Marquis of Vélez, the old Moorish quarter below, and the church of Santiago. In the middle, you find the castle of La Calahorra from the Marquis of Cenete. Here on the right hand, you find the church of Vélez Rubio, the second most important church of the province of Almeria, built in the 18th century. So you see the two layers of power in the ancient regime, the French called it, no? Ancien regime. That's the church and the nobleman. No? Okay, let's go. The next important step for us, for the history of our country and our region, Spain in the 19th century. Of course, French Revolution took part in 789, the Napoleon Wars until 1814, also here in Spain, with heavy battles here with Spanish troops and English troops against the French. But the French occupation is also the beginning of the shift towards the modern state, the modern liberal state of the 19th century, with a common law book to change administration, following the French example, abolishing all what have to do with the ancient regime, also with the disentailment is going on really in all the 19th century, disentailment of common goods, ecclesiastical properties, because the Spanish state was bankrupt. They lost also their colonies in Latin America. They lost the wars against the French, and they was exhausted. So they were looking for how to become money for the state and to finance the state. And that's the reason of this rise of capitalism, was the disentailments, selling these properties to rich bourgeois owners, large farms in the southwest Spain. If you travel nowadays to the western part of Andalusia, Sevilla or Cordoba or wherever, or Cadiz, you'll find the large haciendas. No? It's the result of this process. And the owners normally lived in Madrid, and that's all the administrators running the farm for them and sending the money to Madrid to have a good life on the capital. So you see that 25% of all the surface of Spain was amortized and became free property, the free market. It could be sold and rented. And it goes in parallel with the expansion of agriculture. It's quite expanding agriculture, but coming to a crisis in 1980 and the protection toll policy. Well, it's very actual now when we're thinking in some parts of the world now. And we have also a late and very unequal industrialization in Spain. Here in the southern part, nearly we haven't any industry. Only the mining industry, bringing out the metals and shipping it mostly to Great Britain. The most industrialized regions here in Spain are Catalonia, now for the struggle for freedom, and also the Basque Country, happening 3/4 of the same thing. Okay, let's go. Yeah, here only to see the evolution and how we are ending really our journey, how agriculture is losing its importance during the 20th century, especially speaking about employment. You see, from a 67% in 1901, we are nearly now in the 4%. No, it's nearly the same what is happening in all Europe some decades ago. In Germany nowadays, I think it's 1.5% of the population are working in the primary sector. We have also a very big incision, a very important historic thing that's happening here. It's a civil war between 1936 and 39, when Franco troops defeated the Spanish Republic, and you may know that from Ernest Hemingway or George Orwell. They were fighting here with the Republican troops and writing also as the news about that. And Franco, when he won the war, he really was in, well, he won the war thanks to the support of Hitler and Mussolini, Nazi Germany and fascist Italy. And they, well, Franco was his ally until the end of the Second World War. Then he searched for some new friends. He found it in Argentina, later on in the United States because of the Cold War. But in the meantime, this 14 years of isolation, there was a very hard situation here, a social and economic situation in Spain. And so the people started to immigrate to Central Europe, mainly France, really until the 1980s. And also in the 1950s started the Green Revolution here, some decades after the rest of the world, the rest of Europe and the rest of the United States, of course, with the tractors and fertilizers. So less manpower was needed, and it leads to depopulation of our rural areas and immigration to Catalonia and Europe. And to give you an idea, in my village here in Vélez Blanco, in 1960, where we were 8,000 people, nowadays we are less than 2,000, and that's a general evolution here in the last 40 years in the whole inner Spain. If you see a Spanish map from 100 years ago, 3/4 of the population was living inside the interior sides of Spain. Nowadays, it's really the reverse. And now 75% is living on the coast side. And we are losing population. So we will have, in the next 30 years, the loss of the half of the villages of Spain, if we can reverse this evolution. Okay, let's go on. Go on, please. The next one, yeah. Okay, what's the challenges for the 21st century? And there we are coming to AlVelAl and ecosystem restoration camps. The effects of climate change. We are the hotspot of climate change here, of course. We are a hotspot also on soil erosions. We have 25 to 40 tons a hectare a year of soil loss. It's of course a fertile layer by rain and storms or wind. We have also a big water scarcity of droughts, frequent droughts, and only 200 millimeters of rainfall here in the region. Of course, we have also a loss of biodiversity and pollinators. And as I told you a minute ago, the depopulation that is really preoccupying, and only elder people remaining in AlVelAl territory. Okay, that's all. That's an overview about our history of 1,400,000 years.
Oh, wow. Oh, that was a lot. That was a lot.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Great. Let me stop sharing. Okay. I'm gonna have you start. Can you start your video? I start. There you go. Okay. Okay. I'm a little rusty on the. So what are we gonna jump into next? Here we go. Can you hear that echo?
Echo? No, I hear you. No,
okay. This is my first time trying the speakerphone headphones, but I'm getting an echo. Does anybody else get it? Let's see. Yeah, they hear echo. One Dietmar, did you want? What did you want to move into next? You want to look at any more pictures?
But we have any questions on the?
Yeah. Gabriel had a question. Plug this in real quick.
Okay. Lake, no? You hear me? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I can.
When does the lake disappear, and is it thought to relate it to replay later? How do we get the recording? Well, that's two questions, different questions. We don't know really. There was some seismic movements, and the lake was really emptied and goes down to what nowadays is a river of Guadalquivir. How do we get the recording? Are there photos or what the Iberian alphabet look like?
Yeah.
No, and on this representation not, but if you go to internet I recommend you to use Ecosia as a search engine, not Google, because Ecosia, with each search, you are planting a tree. And with AlVelAl, we made the first Ecosia project in Europe, planting 50,000 trees here on one sunny hillside, a very degraded hillside, but a very symbolic hill on here next to Vélez Blanco. So please look at Ecosia to find this Iberian alphabet. Okay, it's possible to put the presentation in full screen. Okay, that was made. When waves of Middle Eastern phase. Okay, I think he will
Rainfall rates.
refer to the Phoenicians, I think, no? Middle Eastern phase of Spanish history. There are different things, different eras of Middle Eastern contact. We have the contact from Neolithic times with the first farmers and cattle breeders are coming from the Middle East, from the fertile half moon, like they call it. Nowadays Mesopotamia, Iraq, Iran, and Syria. And they're coming from the Balkans here down to the Iberian Peninsula. And they're bringing in the first cereal harvesting, cereal cultivation, like wheat and rye and stuff like that. Later on, we have the Phoenician contact with the wine producing and also the olive oil producing. And well, big change in agriculture after the Romans with the dry farming is irrigation systems coming from the Arabian Peninsula. No? We have also this famous canal, this tunnel systems. You will find it with kilometers beneath the earth and in Iran or in Oman, like that. Okay, yeah, cotton was cultivated and still is cultivated next to rivers like the Guadalquivir next to Seville. Nowadays you will find cotton there. It's quite an important cotton production now. Do you have any sense of rainfall rates during the period? No. We have any evidence on rainfall rates. Please copy questions and we can hear echo. It's amazing to talk about such a waste length of time.
Let's read the whole question. Sorry, I still have an echo.
Yeah, the last question of Alan.
Read the whole question out loud before you answer it.
It's amazing to be talking about such a vast length of time, and yet our own urgency for unprecedented change or to adapt to climate change is on entirely different time scale. surely there's a synthesis between the challenges of the depopulation and the adaptation and restoration. Are you hopeful? Yes, of course. Yes, of course I'm hopeful, because now people are struggling in that, against these challenges, with a bottom-up initiative, working, networking, with knowledge transfer driven by the local society, not from Seville, that's our capital, of Andalusia, or from Madrid or from Brussels, but made here with a practical work, restoring soils by making compost, or to increase fertility of the soils, bringing in organic matter, also compost, of course, to improve the biodiversity by making hedges with pollinators, to cover the soils with green cover, maintain green cover, it's important, maintain green cover, with quite a lot of strategies. And we are doing this with demo farms, that people can make workshops and come see how we, because it's very important. We are talking about money. If a farmer will have an error, he will pay the price. So we have to show them on demo farms that it really works, that we are using regenerative agriculture techniques. And so we make also the assessment and the evaluation of this process, not only on the agronomic point of view, but also on the economic point of view. And there's also a social movement and a cultural movement, because we are proud of on our history. History and culture is also a resource, a very important resource. Speaking on sustainable tourism, bringing in here from the coast, from Spain, you have to think we have 73 million tourists in Spain each year, and some millions are very near to our territory. And so we are now starting with TUI, maybe we'll talk a little bit later on, to bring in sensible and interested tourists, not to be only on the beach, but also to know authentic, real Spain, and to come and to see how we are working, to share with us our experiences, to have good and healthy food, and just food, and not just food, no, fair food, with fair prices for our producers. So we have a holistic view on rural development, and obviously it has to be driven by the local people, but facilitated with strong allies from the universities, from research institutes, from foundations from Spain and from abroad. Especially the Common Land Foundation from Holland is quite important, like a facilitator in all this process. And other inspiring, very important people like John Delieu. Well, we are working in a network. It's also important. We're not alone. We have experiences all over the world. We're very strongly connected to other Common Land projects in Australia and South Africa. And it's really amazing what's happening nowadays on small scale, but scaling up.
When did all the forest disappear? When did the forest disappear?
Yeah, there's a famous legend about that the Romans, or later on Philip II, cut off all the trees to build ships. No, you know, it's for the Armada Invencible. No, in 1588, you're going up to England. No, that's rubbish. That's rubbish. Never a squirrel was crossing Spain, jumping from tree to tree. That's rubbish. Huh? You know this famous history from Plinius the Elder. But really, we have quite a lot of forests in the north, but in the southwest, southeast, we had really a Campus Spartarius with asparto grass mostly. The most trees disappeared, or in the times when here we have Spain is very huge. It's more than 500,000 square kilometers. So we can't, I will talk about our region. Our region, the trees disappeared first when they started to use metals in the time of the Copper Age and the Bronze Age. It was a heavy impact. We know it by paleobotanic studies made from the University of Jaén and Murcia. Later on in Roman times, to cut off the trees for have more larger farms. Later on in the times to think about in Europe, population is rising up very rapidly, very fast from 750 until now. And here's the population. I'll give you an example. Vélez Blanco started in 1750 with 3,000 inhabitants. And I told you in 1950 there was 8,000 inhabitants. And all those people needed to have land plots to cultivate, to build houses, and to heaten their houses, because it's very cold here. It's not like you have maybe the experiences of Seville or Cordoba, or it's very hot in summer. No, it's really cold. It's like feeling very familiar with that, because, you know, I'm German from Germany, and it's like the northern German part, really, in the winter and autumn and springtime. So mainly the forest disappeared here in the 19th century. If you see, it's quite interesting. You can find it also on the internet. If you search for photographs made by the American Army in the 1950s, 56 especially, you find any tree here around Vélez Blanco, for example. Nothing, any tree. And they started to reforestate here from the 1960s onwards to create employment and have also cheap wood to use for packaging and stuff like that. Huh? Okay, maybe I answered the question.
Mm-hmm. And then what was the role of the Alhambra in this region?
Alhambra is for me one of the beautiful places I know in all the world. Well, I've not traveled quite a lot, but for me it's fascinating. Alhambra is really the remain of this great civilization of the Islamic kingdoms here. But you have to think about one thing. It's fascinating from an aesthetic point of view. And you have to go there when it's early or very late to enjoy it, really. And maybe you have to go with a Walkman, with an MP4 player or whatever, and to have Arabic music and smell some essences, because the Islamic palaces here, not only in the Alhambra, was designed with gardens. You was walking above the above the plants to smell the smell, to hear the noise of water, and to enjoy the connection between architecture and nature. Really, if you go to the Patio de los Leones, you think you are in a palm tree forest. It's incredible. It's the most beautiful place I know. But there are the ruling people living there. The most of the Arabs, well, let's talk about them like Arabs. Well, Moors, I call also Moriscos. Well, they are living in very poor conditions. They're not rich. Alhambra, it's a jewel, but it's exceptional. So Alhambra is where some of the taxes went to from the farmers here, the Moorish farmers living here in the landscape. Okay.
I think this next question takes us into what we were going to talk about next with the AlVelAl and everything, right? Alan says, excellent. So perhaps the story for these areas over the next 30 to 40 years could be of repopulation with a shared ambition for that regenerative rural development. Is Spain / the area open for that? What are the barriers to scale beyond convincing farmers? Sounds like he's asking about the mission of AlVelAl, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we are contributing also with the ecosystem restoration camp, and now with the ecosystem restoration academy that's starting now this week. And yesterday I was giving them also an introduction to all the history here with young people from the Netherlands mostly, to bring hope to this region. And hope. We also made, maybe you know, a restoration festival, regeneration festival, with young people coming from all over Europe, and also outside from Europe also, coming to the La Jonquera. That was an abandoned little village some 2 years ago. And the owner, Alfonso, was on the way to Madrid going back, saying, oh, well, here we can't do anything. And now we have coming back people, young people, seeing an opportunity here in the region. That's not a massive evolution now, but with the young people are seeing here a future.
And the locals,
and
yeah.
Locals, locals had gone away.
But they were there at the festival too, is what I was going to say. That it was a lot of the local farmers and the local people playing their music, and there was a lot of mingling that happened. And I know you guys work a lot with local farmers, AlVelAl, right, as well? You've been doing that for a while?
Yeah, farmers is very important, because farmers are managing the soils. And we have to retain them here, because if you leave the land plots and you leave it without any cultivation, and also with the sheep are very important to prevent forest fires. You have to make a good and a holistic management of the cattle. But if you do that, especially with the sheep, you are bringing quite a lot of benefits here also to the territory. But that's another part. Yeah. And we try to help elder farmers to trust in young farmers. It's also very complicated. It's a very individualistic region here, with bad experiences in the past, also with cooperatives, with enterprises, with business, and you have, first of all, have to make trust building. That's the reason why we are doing these workshops and the demo farms and quite a lot of workshops. And
Dietmar,
and really,
oh, sorry, go ahead. Please? Go ahead. Yeah.
And one of the positive effects of the Spanish crisis, it was really horrible, you know. Spain was hidden by this crisis in 2008, and we had up to a 50% youth unemployment and really very critical social situations. And quite a lot of young people, not really here in the south, but also in the south, but mainly in the north, was going back to the villages of their grandparents and other families, and searching for a new way of working in the landscape, and building eco villages, with ground democratic structures, and doing things the other way. Mm-hmm. And very disappointed about politics of traditional politics, but searching for a positive come out.
Yeah. Dietmar, one quick question I have is, so we just went through a lot of different history of human land use in that area, having a lot of different effects on the ecology, a lot of it not so good. Can you speak briefly to what we've learned from history, and also what we're learning now ecologically, and about regenerative agriculture, to what is regenerative agriculture and what is different about the approach of AlVelAl, different or similar from the ways humans have been in that area in the past?
You have to be very aware that monoculture means very big loss of all, of productivity, of oil, and other stuff. I'll give you an example. In the last 10 years, in the southeast of Spain, the farmers are planting massively almond trees. Almond trees, rain-fed almond trees, not like in San Joaquin Valley in California, but rain-fed with a low productivity, but they are plowing a lot. since the 1950s, the farmers are really obsessed with plowing. Before, there was the Roman plow with a 15 or 20 centimeters depth. But nowadays, they're using tractors with a depth from 60 to 70 centimeters, and they're destroying the fertile layer of the soil. And so what we first, well, one of our most important approach is to have a mixture and integrated agroforestry system, where almond trees, because we are the most important surface worldwide on organic almonds, more than 120,000 hectares. But you have to produce organic. It's not enough. Organic means not to use synthetic fertilizers or pesticides, but you don't restore soil. You have to bring anything back to the soil. And you're living from the soil. You have to treat it very well. And so you have to deal with green cover. You can bring in the sheeps in this almond forests. You have also hedges with pollinators, and you are producing honey. We are also using it for now, green cover for vineyards. It's also important. We are bringing back old varieties of wine that was lost in the 20th century after the big disease we had in the beginning. So we want to have a more mosaic type agriculture. It's also intelligent on the way thinking about economy, because almond prices are rising up and going down. And that depends not on us, that depends on California, of course. There's 80% of world production of almonds. And so we have to be very careful, because it's all, as I told you before, for historic reasons, very small scale land plots. And you have to be very respectful and very careful with our farmers, that don't have a loss, and they will abandon their farms.
Mm-hmm. The next question, does the esparto grass act as a cover crop, and does it, like vetiver, stabilize the soils, and does it still have a commercial value? Esparto.
Good question. Very good question. Yeah. Esparto grass is, of course, a very important cover crop. Yes, of course. And it's also important for biodiversity. It's for the animals. It's like a asylum to have a refuge. How you call it in English? I don't know. Or refugio on that. And it's very important. And we don't want to reforest all this. It makes no sense. Our next natural zone restoration project is on a 4,000 hectare public farm from the Andalusian government, where essays are made for the last 30 years, what was the most effective way to restore landscape. And of course there are forests, but of course there's also esparto grass. And one of the most important challenges now is how we make cheaper the harvesting of esparto grass. And we're working now on a project, live project here with the European Union, how we can mechanize the esparto grass harvesting, because it's interesting. It's like I told you before, our smartphones, the screens, you can use esparto grass for that, to do that, the cellulose. Or you can also use it for pieces for cars. There was essays made some 4 years ago from a local engineer together with Nissan, and it's very promising, but the problem is the price. It's not competitive with other materials. It's not competitive if you don't make a new system of ecosystem services financiation. And I'm now in contact with the new government of Valencia, and there's an expert, Maria Diago, working on that, how we can finance ecosystem services. And that's a key question also. Not only the market, but also how we deal with public services it's given from our landscape, like water, like air quality and stuff like that.
Nice. All right, next question. Starlight. So when I visited the ecosystem restoration camp, that's the one in Spain there, I landed by plane in Andalusia and drove to the ecosystem restoration camp site. I was told that 800 years ago, the landscape that I looked at was a climax oak forest. If I understood the reply correctly, this is not the case, and that there was a mainly grassland but with some trees, and that tree removal started in the Bronze and Copper Age, and then the main degradation, meaning removing a vegetation cover with the consequent soil erosion, took place in the 1900s. Did I understand right? The climax system, yeah. And what happened? What was that?
Well, let's see. The stone oaks and the pine trees, not only stone oaks. We have evidence that was the same amount about from pine trees and stone oaks and other trees. But okay, yeah, depends on the land use. Because 800 years ago, this was a borderline between, I told you before, the Christian kingdom of Murcia and Castile and the Islamic kingdom of Granada. And these parts, this AlVelAl territory was really abandoned. There was living nearly no one. So only some cattle breeders to bring their sheep fastly back to the castles and not to be rapted by the enemy. So we have quite a lot of course, we have evidence that there was quite a lot of more old stone oaks, yeah. But as I told you before, when this was incorporated to the feudal system, the trees were cutting off to gain the farmland. So for building and charcoal and stuff like that. And later on, of course, there's a big impact in the 19th and beginning of the 20th century because of the population, rise of population.
Nice.
So you understood well. In the first big cutting off is in the Bronze Age, of course, yeah, for the need for the melting of the bronze.
Right. And some places there was a forest, and in some it was more of a savanna. Was that the case, or?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So the next question: how has been the work on informing and acceptance of regenerative practices by local farmers? How have they been receiving it?
Yeah, good question. Also, yeah, we have here a Spanish proverb in this region. Well, let's tell it to you. The easy things are already done. So we are bringing in a new way of thinking of agroecology. It's not only permaculture techniques, but we are also speaking about a change of mind, a mind shift. Really, we want to change society, to be more solidarian and to be more sustainable in quite a lot of aspects, not only agriculture. But okay, let's see. Of course, that's the reason why we started with the demo farms. You can talk quite a lot in a room about philosophy and sustainable development and all the stuff. Okay, that's nice. But the farmer needs to have certain certainty about how you will implement that, how you will deal with that. It gives an extra income, really. It means I will have more perspective to live here on the land. And so, you know, I don't know how you are living over there where you're hearing my little conference here, but I'm coming from the north of Germany, also from the rural part. And farmers are there very conservative, very conservative. It's really astonishing. Now changing a little bit the example. Myself, I'm coming here from Germany, living here for 25 years in a little village. And they made me the mayor and president of the natural park. I think in Germany, that's not really possible in the rural landscape. I think so. The people are very open-hearted, very warm-hearted, very tolerant. But we have to show them it works, and trust us. But you can see it on the field. That's important to give them how you call it, seguridad. You have to be certain of yeah. Okay,
great.
and but nowadays, so we are now working for 3.5 years with AlVelAl. Compost making is an item people are discussing when they're having a beer in a bar. And when you are coming there to the bar, it's not more important than the town hall or the government in Madrid or everything. The bar is important. And when the farmers are talking about compost making, and let's see, we'll go to the demo farm of Alfonso or to Roque Tacon or to Francisco Martinez Raya and have a look what they're doing there. And the functions, wow. Yes, things are changing. But we have a 20 years perspective, a minimum of 20 years perspective. We're very humble. We are a learning organization, and we are not the supermans. Wow, we know it all, and we follow us. No, that's not real. No, we have to be very humble.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. I like it. Stay humble, and you know it's real when you hear it in the bar, right?
Yeah, that's real. After 3 or 4 beers.
As the Irish say, the spirits go in and the truth comes out, right? That's good.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Well, we have a little bit more time and no more questions. Did you want to address the TUI, the TUI thing?
Yeah.
As well?
You
want to tell about it, or do you want me to bring that up?
Yeah.
I'll bring it up, yeah.
Okay. Well, TUI, as you know, is the most important touristic tour operator worldwide.
Let me share screen.
Based in Germany, and well, they bring millions of tourists to all over the world. Yeah. Okay, yeah, over there with a nice map. Yeah. You see our AlVelAl territory on the southeast. The map with the nice trees. It's from my colleague Marina. She's quite nice making these designs. Yeah, and that's our aim. This type of agriculture with almendresa, you know, with almond trees, with other crops in the middle, with cereals, with aromatic herbs. It's also very important, aromatic herbs. And we presented it with our colleagues from the Horstmann Foundation based in Amsterdam in the Netherlands to TUI Care Foundation. That's a social responsibility foundation of TUI, based also in the Netherlands. And so we showed them, well, we want to do the next step, how we can give an extra income to our producers. With improving the soil fertility and regenerative techniques, we bring up the productivity of the fields. And with natural organic matter, we can incorporate in the soil and the fertile layer with the compost, cutting off when we are pruning the trees, and later on we will smash it and bring it in the soil also. We have a productivity, but with the natural insumos, we have also the natural products. We will to save money for them, but because they will use more cheaper products. You have now 2 incomes. More productivity, less costs. And now the third one is how we bring directly our products to the consumers. So we founded also in 2016 a company, Social Limitada, based on 21 farmers, and now we will incorporate more, and we will make also other companies. They are working with our philosophy of the 4 returns, return of inspiration, social return, environmental return, and financial return, and with permaculture techniques, and bring it to the nearby coast. If you see the hotels here on the coast, they are from 150 to 80 kilometers away from our heartland. And we can bring them honey. We can bring them also almonds, of course, wine, aromatic herbs, the lambs, our autochthonous lampreys, it's very good lamb meat. Of course, olive oil. We have wonderful olive oil from centennial olive trees. And we have to protect them. They are in the valleys, traditional irrigated from the Arab systems, and now big companies from abroad, especially from Murcia and Almeria, are coming in, cutting off these trees and planting lettuce and broccoli. So we have an urgent need to propose new business cases to the farmers that will give them interesting incomes, more interesting than selling the land plots to the big companies. And also pig farms and stuff like that. And fruits and vegetables. It will bring them to the hotels run by TUI. TUI is bringing around about 1 million of tourists here in the region next to us, so we can sell quite a lot of products. And TUI will also open their product portfolio to bring in tourists in our region, but tourists that are interested in traditional culture, in new ways of agriculture, in healthy food, in heritage. We have World Heritage, UNESCO Heritage here. Well, you see, it will be a really fructiferous cooperation.
Right. Do you want to show anything?
Yeah, go a little bit. We'll see. Uno más. See here. Wait a minute. Number 4, I think it was.
I'll go back.
Yeah. Here. Those figures. Okay, and how do we do that? It's a 3 years project. First of all, we started to make a stakeholder mapping. Who are the producers? The farmers are working on organic, and they may be willing to change to regenerative farming. And we made, that was an initial provision of 700 farmers. We now have a database of nearly 3,000 farmers that are organic in our region. So it's quite important amount of people we can assess. So what we're making, well, the presentation, of course, of the project to everyone in all the 5 countries we are, assessment on the farms. We want to help 130 farms from all them with a consultancy on the farm and with a constant monitoring and evaluation to become regenerative in the next 3 years, with soil analysis, with economic analysis, with all the stuff. And of course, we are making workshops about regenerative techniques, water harvesting, pollinizers, green cover, how to build and restore the ancient terraces from Arab times to retain the water. It's part of the water harvesting, farm design, well, all the stuff. It's open to all the farmers, of course. The soil analysis is okay. And we are now dealing, because there's no certification on regenerative products. You know, there's organic labels like Demeter, Bioland, and stuff like that, but we have no one for regenerative practices. So we are working now with the University of Zurich, Bern, please, in Switzerland, on an evaluation method called RISE. And we are now will test this the next year to give total control. It's very important for the consumers, because there was quite a lot of bad practices on organic farming in the past, and also in conventional farming, of course. So we will give total transparency to the consumers, to know in each moment where the products are coming from. You can visit the farms, you can speak to the farmers, and you know also the different mentality of farmers are working regenerative, or also organic. Normally you can go to an organic farmer, he will show you everything. You go to a conventional one, and he is trying to hide quite a lot of things away. That's our experience here. And also, we are bringing people together for networking. Mobilization is very important. So the agro cafes is where we invite people to have a coffee, to chat together, and interchange their experiences of conventional, organic, and regenerative practices. And of course, we have to make spread the news and knowledge transfer, the addition of brochures and manuals and stuff like that. But we have also to deal not only with the farmers, but also with the people that are working in the cuisines, in the kitchens, because to the consumers, we are coming, well, we have the business cases I told you before, and then we have the touristic sector. And we will assess 60 restaurants in the region. We have a total of 270 bars and what, pubs, you call it in English, I think, pubs and restaurants. And 60 of them we will assess with some consultancy on how to use local products produced just in time here in the region, healthy food, organic food, and how they can show the extra value, the added value of using this product to the clients that are coming here from the villages, but also from abroad. So to give them also an extra incentive, we are working with 5 Michelin star cooks. They are from the region, but they are working abroad. But they have a very strong feeling of belonging to our territory. And they may be like a lighthouse for the local cooks and local owners to put in practice. But because one thing is to cook with local products, but you can't cook like some 200 years ago, because the nutrition science shows us what we have to do. Slow cook, very few cooking, and also, you know, Spanish cuisine. I think 4 of the 10 most important cooks in the world are Spanish, mostly from the northern part of Spain, but okay. They have very interesting proposals how to present the dishes to the clients. And we have to give also we have to teach to the clients to be more respectful to the cooks, to the products, and to enjoy. So we also are sharing, and I am very strong contact with slow food. You know, this movement going on from Italy, but it's spreading all over the world. And slow food is now very interested. I was in Turin in September, the Congress, Salón del Gusto, and they are very aware about what means loss of soil fertility, water scarcity, and stuff like that, and also social problems and how we can deal with that. Well, let's talk about immigrants. What we do with all the immigrants that are coming here, risking their life, crossing the Mediterranean Sea. Quite a lot of them are dying. It's scandalous. It can't be. We have to deal with that. Some of them are very, very good farmers. When we are very depopulated, our partner project in Australia is trying to bring in Syrian farmers in this depopulated area to put in a value. So I showed you that we have to be also ambitious. It's not only farming, it's not only tourism, it's also society and how we deal with our neighbors, with mankind. What's our approach to that? Yeah, that's a little bit. No, you can see it's a 3 years project, and we are really very inspired by that. And quite a lot of other initiatives here from Spain are contacting us in Valencia and Murcia and other parts and on the Balear Islands and Mallorca and stuff. And with other projects, they are now starting also in Malaga, in the Canary Islands, in Creta, in Greece, and very soon also in Northern Africa. And so we will create also a learning network to avoid to make the same mistakes in other projects. It's very important. It's an aspect very important also for the work for AlVelAl in networking, like with common land, to be more professional, to learn about how to, well, fundraising, monitoring, evaluation, dashboards and stuff like that, to be more professional. We're not the normal association with a goodwill, but not really with the tools to deal with that. We have big challenges, and we have to be very professional, also very honest with the money we are using.
Very cool.
Okay, I think that's okay.
All right. Well, very good. I think we covered what we were going to cover. Is there anything else you wanted to share today, Dietmar? Oh, we got another question here. Hang on.
Yeah, I am seeing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so in the effort for the regenerative certification with the Bern University, are you in cooperation with Patagonia and the other partners like Rodale and Dr. Bronners and others that are working on the regenerative organic certification? Have you been in contact with any of them?
Of course, Patagonia was here 2 times, and we're in very strong contact with them. And also Ronnie from the American
Cummins.
Yeah, Cummins, with IFOAM, no, from the Organic International Federation of Organic Producers. The director was here. The former director was here also. The director was from Australia, I think so. And Bernhard Geyer also from IFOAM. So we are working in network. You can't do it yourself. It would be stupid to do it. We have to learn and join hands and go together. We are allies. And if you work on your own, you may be stupid, of course.
Great. Well, and maybe if we work together well enough, then the next 1,000 to 5,000 to 1,000,000 years might be good.
Yeah. Take 5. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Dietmar. This has been a pleasure. I know I learned a lot about the history of the region and all those other things that are going on. So thank you for your time, and thanks everybody for showing up. Next month we're going to have Leo Vandervlist on, and that's going to be real interesting too. So tune in next month, and I look forward to the next time I get to see you, Dietmar.
I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah.
One question. What about the recording? How we can access the recording of this session?
Oh, it'll be on YouTube. I'll send you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. We have to spread the news everywhere.
You know
all that. We have to share every time.
Every time.
Okay. Fantastic. It
right.
was an honor and a big pleasure for me. See you.
Pleasure for you too. For me too. All right. And see you, everybody.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Okay. Bye.